Good morning or evening. It's a very hot day today. I think it's like 100 degrees. And so I wanted to talk about this, why we're having this global warming. I wrote it down first. Makes it a little better for me. Okay, so dear friends, people of the earth and aliens from outer space, or people from all religions, um, everyone. We know we have a problem. Our earth is dying, and I think you know this. If we look around, we can see, or maybe we don't. Maybe we don't look. Haven't you noticed the weather? Yeah, especially today. It's like 110. Have you noticed the storms, the heat, the cold? It's very unusual, and these things are increasing. Hold on. Do you want to know why? Would you sit down for a moment and listen? And if you're given the reasons, are you willing to discipline yourselves and make a change in your life? So let us ask some questions. Why are the fish dying? And why is the coral dying? Why is our air so humid? Why does the sun feel so hot? And where do storms come from? Do all these things have a common denominator? I say yes. And to find the problem, we must go to the source. And find the source, we go to the origins of life and language, land, you age. According to what we know, Hebrew and Egyptian is the oldest land Jew age. So we should begin to look here for the foundations. According to Hebrew scripture, in the beginning, the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. And from this Spirit and the water, everything was created. So, what is spirit? Spirit is air, and spirit is energy. It's more energy than air. What is energy? Energy is vibration. Energy is waves. Everything has energy. All things are different expressions of that energy, or i.e., tuning, frequency. Everything you see is between a certain wavelength that can be received by the eyes. And different animals can see different things. Is it true that deer, they can't see color? Is that true? And how do we know that anyway? Someone pop out a deer's eye and put it in their own? I wonder how they know these things. Some things don't even use their eyes the same way we do, like bats, they use sonar, and some of the fish, but they still have eyes, so they could still see along with that. Okay, so what we're seeing is really different waves. The different colors have different sizes of waves, and we know this. Ultraviolet is very small, and red is the larger of the waves. Yeah, at the border of light is red. That's why when the sun sets, you're seeing red, because that is the border of the light wave, or what the sun's energy is producing. And that is why also the sun looks bigger as it's setting, because the red wave is larger. And that's why a red moon looks bigger than white or blue. The moon, is reflecting the sun's light. So if the moon is at the perimeter of the sun's light, then it turns red. And because the red waves are bigger than the other ones, then the moon and the sun look bigger. Yeah, that makes sense. Everything you hear is a different wavelength within the spectrum that the receiver ear is tuned to hear. Yeah, we know that a deeper sound is a larger wave, correct? It's a lower frequency. And a high pitched sound, we can even shatter glass with a high singing voice. So everything you hear is a different wavelength within the spectrum that the receiver ear is tuned to hear. And some light is silent and some light makes noise. Really, light is also sound. Okay. Lightning is an example of a multiple spectrum wave because it's really just accelerating sound waves into light waves. But the light travels faster than the sound, so you see the light first, although it was last. Lightning is an example of how God created the earth. It is written that God spoke everything into existence. We know speech is a sound wave. We can even raise our voices to shatter glass or whistle that only a dog can hear. Everything is making sound, you just can't hear all the sounds. Some sounds you touch, some sounds you eat, some you breathe, some you drink, some you see. Everything is sound, everything is waves. Everything is made from energy and water, or i.e., spirit and water. I can keep going on with this, but I want to get to the point. The earth has boundaries. It has commands which are established for the function and life of the earth. Natural equals nature rules. Just as in the beginning God gave Adam rules, these rules are still in effect to this day. Remember, it was commanded Adam not to eat certain things. And I'm here to tell you that we are destroying our own home by disobedience to these rules. We continue doing this to this day. People say that it is the sin of our forefathers that's killing us. It's written right here. I don't want to go too much scripture because it seems like people really don't like to hear scripture. It's because we're not completely understanding the whole thing, but it is written in here. Was it Ezekiel 18? It says, the word of Yahuwah came to me saying, what do you mean when you use this proverb concerning the land of Israel, saying the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are blunted? As I live, declares the master, you shall no longer use this proverb in Israel. See, all beings are mine. The being of the Father as well as the being of the Son is mine. The being that is sinning shall die, but if a man is righteous and shall do right ruling and righteousness, he will live. So we each have, decisions to make in our lives. We each have choices. We can live or die. In Genesis 1:29, God said, and Elohim said, see, I have given you every plant that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed to you is for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to every creeping creature on earth, in which there is life, every green plant is for food. And it came to be so. And Elohim saw all that he had made, and see, it was very good. And there came to be evening, and there was morning the sixth day. Okay, so beyond this, we have also been given a list of clean and unclean foods in Leviticus 11. Because we eat a lot of meat today, and in the beginning, I don't believe this, we didn't see anything about meat in the beginning. It just said all the plants. And look, even when the children of Israel were in the wilderness, God was giving them manna, and they were complaining about that. So then he did give them some quail, and when they ate it, he became angry. Well, so maybe we're not supposed to be eating some of these things. But even if we are, okay, let's at least go to the list of clean and unclean foods, because I'll explain to you then why the earth is the way it is. Oh, I said I'll add the list at the end of this post because when people post scripture, everyone seems to run away. And I want to explain why we're having global warming, okay? So in the list God gave us, he said things like shellfish and bottom feeders are unclean. He said the clean fish have scales and fins. Okay? So why? Why did God just want to be mean? Well, we wouldn't have even known what these things tasted like. You know, the shellfish and lobster and crabs. Everyone loves these things, but we wouldn't have even known what they tasted like if we would have just listened from the beginning. Okay, so why? Um, these things have a different purpose. We know that shellfish keep the waters clean and clear. And because we have eaten these things, our waters have become murky. So how does this affect the rest of the earth? Look, we even know um, that the government tries to reflect the sun. We know that heat comes from the sun because the sun is energy. So they try to reflect it with, spraying little bits of aluminum and stuff in the sky because they're correct that, yeah, heat is coming from the sun. Well, how did we make it this far for thousands of years and we didn't have this problem, like, say, even 100 years ago? Or, well, maybe it was beginning to, but these days it's worse than ever. We know that sunlight is energy, and we know that energy is absorbed in particles. Many particles make darker colors, and more light is absorbed. Yeah, we know that black absorbs the heat, because you can't even walk on, um, the macadam or the pavement, the black pavement, you'll burn your feet. We know that black absorbs, so this is also the same for air and for water. If the waters are murky, they're going to absorb more of the sun. If the air is polluted, it's going to absorb more sun. Before we polluted the waters and polluted the air, the sun was originally supposed to travel through the air and the water to the bottom of the ocean. Plants need the sun to grow, and the shellfish and bottom feeders need the sun's energy to produce the foods for them and the rest of the fish. And the bottom of the ocean should be warming up, not the top. Look, two reasons the sun does not shine through the air or through is because the air is polluted with carbon monoxide particles of darkness and other pollutions, and the waters are full of sediment and trash and oil. Not only have we eaten the water filter, but in places like Dubai, they stir up the bottom of the oceans to suck in sand to build their fake islands. And because of all this, the waters are murky on the surface now. They're stirred up. Therefore, the sun is absorbed in the surface of the waters, and the surface heats up and evaporates into the air, creating humidity and very large storms. As we know, we have more hurricanes these days, and we know that hurricanes and stuff come from the warm waters. And we're having warm waters because the sun's absorbed into the water rather than shining through. Thus, this cycle of murky waters evaporating and raining and evaporating and raining as if they're stuck in midair. That's your humidity, which allows the sun to absorb more even in the air, which is why the sun feels so hot. This is further blocking the sun from reaching the ocean floor. No sun on the ocean floor equals no plants in the ocean, equals no coral in the ocean, equals no oxygen in the waters, equals no fish, equals the entire ecosystem is destroyed. Because as we read earlier, water and energy, or air, or spirit, however you want to say it, was the foundation of the earth. So really, waters were here first. The sun is supposed to warm the bottoms, and from the bottom evaporating, causing little bubbles to rise up, and these little bubbles cool before reaching the top. And they also keep the water stirred and at a consistent temperature. Imagine if the bottoms of your ocean was warming and then it was evaporating up through the water, it would be warming the water and the water cooling at the same time. The water cooling that, and we wouldn't even have evaporation. And then these little bubbles would bring up, little bits of fish food and oxygen from the plants. It would look like you're swimming in soda, or like a clear soda like Sprite. And think of what these little bubbles would do. Um, water and bubbles and stuff, they magnify the sun's rays in the water, which would light it up with rainbow prisms of energy and colors and sounds, because light is a sound, and the whole water would be alive with energy. So you see, the problem is our waters are no longer energy. They're just becoming dark, dying. Do you see now why we are commanded not to eat certain things? Supposed to allow the ecosystem to run as it is. Now, even if it's permissible to eat animals and stuff, we should lay off of all these things, at least for a time, to let the earth heal. And then we could always discuss how to manage them later. Let me finish. And who was it who decided to kill an animal in the beginning and eat its flesh? Like if we began to eat fruit in the beginning, why would anyone decide to kill an animal and that its flesh was for food? Like where did that come from? That doesn't make sense, does it? Look, if plants come from water and energy, and animals eat plants and we eat animals, why can't we just go to the source and drink water or eat fruits? Because fruits are water. Fruits filter the water through the stems, vines, and trunks of the plants. Yeah, absolutely. That's like a refined product for us. What other being besides humans really eats fruits? I guess there are some animals. Look, even if we're allowed to eat animals, it was not this way in the very beginning. And even if this is okay, we are not to treat them the way they are being treated. We have made animals slaves. People separate the bull from the cow and the babies from the mother, and they poke them with needles and lock them in barns or in fences, or keep them confined to open fields in the hot sun. The animals were created on the sixth day, just as humans. Therefore, they are closely related to us. Do you see why God allowed your families to be separated? Because we separated the animals' families. Do you see why we have become slaves? Because we've made the animals and the earth your slave. Do you see why you are depressed and anxious? The reason is that the foods you eat are all of these things. Food is information, and you are what you eat. If an animal is unhappy, you eat its unhappiness. If an animal is fed GMO corn or soy and locked in barns, you will also be eating all these things. If you were a cow, picture yourself as an animal, a goat or a cow, whatever you like to eat. If you were a cow or a chicken, wouldn't you love to go for walks in the woods to get relief from the hot sun, or bathe in clean waters, or lean against a cool rock, or run around and play with your children and flirt with the bulls? And wouldn't you also like to choose what you eat? Or would you rather just be fed grain every day, manna? Do you want manna or just rice? Ask the people in Africa how they like eating rice every day. Don't you like variety? Don't you want to be free? Look, God gave us plenty of flavors. Not only do we have fruits, but we have grains, we have nuts, produce, and everything. And then he even allowed us to eat meat. But then what we've done is we treat our animals improperly. It's not right. You want to live, then we must obey God's commands. If we want a healthy earth, then we need to make laws according to what is most important first. Natural equals nature rules. Look beyond this pollution. Beyond this, pollution does not help. Oil burning cars suck in oxygen and blow out a poison gas. Nuclear plants produce a waste that we still don't know what to do with. And even more than this, do they even know how to shut them down? I don't even think they know how to shut these things off. Well, I believe we can shut them down. We can produce, antimatter because the nuclear plants, they require matter and they split matter, right? So as long as there's matter, it's going to continue to create its radiation or whatever. So we need antimatter, but to produce antimatter, it takes more energy than the energy produced by the nuclear plant. So we need a different kind of energy. But beyond this, that's not even so much the people's problem as the common man can at least control what he eats, and the farmer can control how he takes care of the animals. And really, they should have, you know, much larger area, or at least have trees and shade from the sun and somewhere to bathe, as we already talked about. Oh, I think that's enough. Okay, so now you see why the earth is we have global warming. So are you willing to make any changes in your life, or are we all going to die here together? Beyond this, people have their religions and everything, and is it really evil to meet together on, Sunday, or to put on nice clothing? No, none of these things are evil in themselves, but it's not good when we forget the most important things first, which is what we're putting inside our bodies. We're supposed to, you know, after we, eat correctly and treat the earth correctly, everything will automatically begin to heal, and we're all a part of our environment. We're the consummation of where we live, and where we live is all connected. The earth is all just one. So there's nowhere to really escape on the earth. If we're polluting in one area, it's going to affect the electromagnetic field, which is the earth, and affect the other areas as well, and it's going to be out of balance. So I explained, the name for God in scripture is El, which represents the spirit that was above the waters, or El represents electromagnetic frequency spirit of all living things are made from El, which, he spoke waves. Well, we've gone over this already. So there you go. Take that message with you, and let's make some changes and make some laws. Everyone will begin to heal. And look, God created everything to just function on its own. We shouldn't even have to do so much work. Remember, it says, by the sweat of your brow, because we ate what we weren't supposed to. Now we have to work so hard to produce food. But if we just go back to eating what we're allowed to eat, then we won't have to work so hard to produce food, because everything will run the way it's supposed to. The birds, they plant seeds, and fields would just continue to grow. Like, imagine you grow some wheat, and you don't chop down all the wheat, you leave some, and then the seeds from that falls back on the ground and it replants itself for next year. All you have to do is, your little bit of harvesting. If you're hungry, eat some wheat. If you're not, then leave it alone. It would be wonderful if we could just travel to different places and gather our own food. We don't have to have all these factories and stuff producing everything for us. We need to first let the cycle of the earth run in such a way that it reproduces itself. And the animals can live free and they can reproduce themselves. They don't have to be bought and sold like slaves. If you want to eat an animal, then you go hunting. And if we allow the animals to reproduce and live wherever they want, then there'll be so many of them, like it was supposed to be. There'll be plenty of everything for everyone. So, does all this make sense? All right. Thank you for letting me share.